Show is out today. How does that feel? What's going on in your mind right now?
Well, it's amazing. We finished the show last summer, so almost an entire year before it's come out. And I'm excited for people to see it. I'm excited for people to be introduced to it. I'm excited to introduce them to a new character in my body of work, for them to encounter on a global space, because this is the first time I think that Mara has had a global platform to really introduce story to the world. So I'm excited for her to have that opportunity, and what a privilege to talk about it with you today.
Oh, it's a privilege to talk to you about it. Dawn, I love Dawn. She's the most wonderful mom. She's everybody's therapist. She's your best friend. She's the best wife. You truly made her like perfectly imperfect. She's a beautiful character. How did you approach that?
Well, I talked to Mara Brock Akil on a friend trip. We had gone to Usher in Vegas, and the very last show in November of 2023. And she said to me after we had fun girlfriend time, she said, I've been working on this show, working on this Judy Bloom television. And she said, there could be a character in here that would be interesting to you. What are you up to? And I was like, that what are you doing? What I mean? And the stars aligned for us to finally work together. I mean, I know Dawn, she's high performing, she's high achieving. In that way, we're aligned. She's ferociously protective of her children, and also in that way, we're aligned. What the writers gave me is that she has a catastrophic parenting style that we're not aligned with. So, sort of painting, use whatever palette I used for Dawn is much bolder than the palette that I use in my own life, trying to guide my own children. But it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of very clear objectives and challenges to work through artistically. um, Mara has been centering women of color in her stories for her entire career. And so I felt like I was in the best hands as far as, emotional arc and understanding of what a woman goes through. And I didn't feel like I had to campaign. I think the character does this, and maybe the character would do. She already knew, she already had it in her back pocket. I had a great partner in Regina King, who was just so patient and thoughtful and tender and compassionate when it came to helping us build a world for the families and the community in what it looked like for us as actors and for the characters. So, I came into the story obviously very excited to work with the collaborators, but came out of it just with this really profoundly enriching experience as an actor.
Mara really did an incredible job at bringing such an amazing ensemble together. And to have Regina King direct the first episode, like everybody, you just are working with this just incredible circle of talent.
Yeah.
Just so cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's Regina and also Anthony Hemingway, who I don't know if you know his work, but so much of that expansive storytelling that you see around Justin and Keisha is part of his incredible brushstroke in the series. It's my best experiences with the show is getting to know this other very important character who we don't really talk a lot about, but it's the city of Los Angeles, right? And speaks very loudly in Anthony's direction. You see the colors and the lights and the sunset, and you understand where the characters are in their relationship just by seeing the space that they inhabit. And Anthony is top tier in that way. And of course, there's Wood Harris, there's Michael Cooper and Lovie Simone and Zosha Rockmore and all of the players. It was an extraordinary playground to be on.
I want to go back to that Los Angeles being another character. First of all, how big of a Judy Blume fan were you going into this?
Not much. I had read her books. When Mara told me about the book, she said, I'm so excited that Miss Boom is trusting me with this. I really want to be thoughtful and careful about how we present this project. I thought, oh, okay, so let me get tuned up and figure out what it is. But I didn't want to read, I often find if I get too literal with something as an actor, I don't use my imagination as much. It doesn't spark my imagination as much. So I try to stay away a little bit from the source material. Do the same thing on the morning show. Do you know? I know who Brian Stelter is. I've read a couple of chapters of his book, Top of the Morning. But I don't really get into the meat of the stories from the source material because I find it doesn't give me as much. There's not as much payoff when I sit on set and I walk on and look across from another actor or taking a note from a director. I get stuck in my head a little bit.
Oh, it allows you, I think doing it that way allows you to create in this totally fresh world. And you did that so well. You reinvented this world that takes a modern twist on this classic story that is meant to speak to young adults. How how was it for you being able to, I mean, touch on things like social media and the city of Los Angeles and tell that tale today?
Well, I think as an actor, I am the kind of person who wants to know about how we're building the world, why the Edwards live in this part of Los Angeles, and why Keisha's family, lives over here, and what is the bridge that brings them together. And so Los Angeles is unique in that way. As many African Americans know who live in Los Angeles, we do cross classes in order to stay connected to each other. That's just in the history of Los Angeles, how African Americans migrated to Los Angeles. They lived all over the place, but they found a way to stay connected to each other because your survival as a family, that community is so important, and I think that it's great to have a little slice of that in the story. Um, but world building, I know, is very important to Mara, who came to Los Angeles every summer as a child. I think Regina's from Los Angeles, so she certainly had her own perspective on it. And as I said, I thought Anthony did an extraordinary job of showing us what Los Angeles felt like for teenagers who were, sort of ambling and wandering around trying to find themselves.
Absolutely. I do want to get into more of the ensemble. You worked really closely with Wood in this. Was there some moment from filming that stands out to you today?
It's just, we when Wood and I first started working together, the first scene we did was a scene that you see in episode 1 where they're in the kitchen and Dawn is kind of like and Eric is kind of like and I understood that Wood and I were going to have a little bit of a musical, lyrical relationship with our characters. The way his Eric sounded was much more, was smooth. His delivery was smoother. His tones were more legato. And Dawn was more like a Richard Tati. She was more like, she's just doing all that. And you're just like, what is so I could not have figured that out without Wood just being so emotionally available. Like it was instant chemistry, almost a reflex experience working with someone like him who just has this incredible body of work and who's just so open to the experience of working with other actors. So I loved working with him.
How do you feel like her relationship with her husband and her son navigated her evolution through the series?
Yeah, I mean, I think I know this. very intently, that we find Dawn in this transition spot from the very beginning of the show. We find her in media res. Um, the experience of um, going from your child's superhero to being the villain in their origin story. Do you know what I mean? Um, and the shifts and changes emotionally that you have to make as a parent, the you must have in just making that shift. Like, I'm not, as many people know that Black women, Black mothers say, I'm not one of your little friends. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to be that anymore. And there is one moment in episode 5 where Justin says to his dad, aren't you tired? Mom's a lot. Like, women are a lot. Like, mom is doing too much. And his dad says to him, your mom is just fine. I wouldn't have her any other way. I'm paraphrasing it. But I think that they have a deep respect and admiration for each other, affection for each other, that helps Justin understand what it means to love unconditionally. And I think he brings that later on in episode 6 when he's talking about Keisha and her challenges that she's had, that his parents have just been introduced to, how challenging her high school experience has been. But I loved that, Justin really is the bridge between Justin's really the bridge between Eric and Dawn. Sometimes their deep love and affection for their son.
At its heart, there are so many stories that are going on within the story, but at its heart, it is a story about first love and and true love and what that feels like. Um, was there anything that you experienced during this and getting to tell this story that you know now as an adult through this experience that you would love to go back and tell your younger self about first love?
Yeah, I mean, I think um, that sense of urgency, that sense of, wow, this is never going to happen like this again. There's some truth to that. But what I have found in my life is that every time you fall in love, it's like the first time you've ever felt love. And so if I could go back and remind myself of anything, it would be that, you do find love over and over in your life, in the reflection of another person. Um, and the love that lasts forever is the love you find within, when you are sharing space and time with another person. I mean, it's remarkable in that way. The show is obviously about, the love between these two teens, but I think where Mara has made the most profound statement about love is where she has um, Justin and Keisha navigating what it means to love themselves in the midst of failings and stakes and foibles and flaws. The ability to continue to stay in a loving relationship with yourself is maybe where you mature the most, right? And so I hope people get that layer. As you said, there's so many nuances to this story. But what stays with me is how profoundly and beautifully that story is told.
Well, and Dawn feels like the guiding light through all of it. I mean, she is watching your character evolve from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. Like I said, I wish I had her in my corner. I wish I have her in my corner, but she's such a richly layered, real character that it's just um yeah, you did such a brilliant job with her.
Thank you. I do think there are some things that I've borrowed from Dawn, which is her no nonsense approach to parenting. and her deep care for the community that she lives in. Because when she does realize what Keisha's challenges are, she is insistent that they all come together to support her, in spite of the fears and concerns she has about how it will affect her son. And as I said, Mara is just this incredibly compassionate, caring writer. Even if you do end up being an antagonist in some way in this story, and everybody is, because that's good storytelling, at some point, Mara gives you the opportunity to redeem the character in the story arc. And I found that Dawn has many of these moments where you just, she's probably fine. Like, I actually like her a lot. Not that I have to create likable characters, I don't, but you end up rooting for Dawn to get what she wants as well by the end of the story. And yeah, I mean, it's an interesting character to portray. I haven't had anything like her in my body of work, and I'm excited to keep telling the story of what it looks like right now to be an African American mother. You know, I have great admiration and respect for Tracy Ellis Ross and her Beau character on Blackish, and you know, Felicia Rashad and her Claire Huxtable character on The Cosby Show. And I mean, we could go all the way back, Isabel Sanford and Esther Roll and Good Times. And this was my opportunity to throw my hat in the ring for what I think an African American mother looks like right now. Like, what is she like in 2025, or rather in this case, 2018, where the show is set. And what a great privilege to tell that story with Mara and with the incredible cast she put together.
It's been a really great privilege to get to hang out with you today.
Oh, thank you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Of course, anytime.